Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of Grief Angels podcast. I am your host, Rose Gishure. And today we are back with a very interesting topic around how grief affects our physical bodies, because we do go through a lot of changes as we are grieving, right from the moment when you receive the news. The shock of it does bring a lot of different emotions. So grief isn't just an emotional experience. It actually is also very physical. And sometimes the grief begins to manifest itself in your physical body. So you're wondering things like, why am I overeating? Why can't I sleep? Why is my tummy hurting? Why do I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders? Why are my shoulders tight? To help us discuss this today, I brought in a lovely guest, Christine, a healthcare professional, and I want you to introduce yourself because I won't do justice to this. So, Christine, over to you and welcome to the episode.
Thank you for having me, Rose. So, I'm Christine, and I'm here by virtue of my work in health. I'm a nutritionist. I am a public health advocate. I do research all in the realm of health and nutrition.
Okay.
So I'm happy to be here.
Okay. So let's just dive right into it, Christine. When my loved one dies, and I have gone through a lot of grief multiple times now, but the one thing that I do know is I feel so tired all the time, and I don't know where that is coming from, because today is Sunday. I am energetic and I am fine, and everything's happening as it should be. Then Monday comes. The news comes, then out of nowhere, that entire week, I am so fatigued. What's happening to me?
Well, what's happening is that now your body goes into, we could talk about fight and flight response.
Yes.
Because you now have, your reality has changed. So earlier today or Sunday, everything was okay. You were living your known reality.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, somebody you love is no more. So your body pretty much acts like a point of, I need to fight or I need to do something because I'm under attack.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about hormones, talking about adrenaline, we're talking about cortisol. And with adrenaline, actually, there's usually like a high, you have a surge of energy because you need to do something.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden there's a dump, like there's a slump. So with these changes, then you feel that exhaustion that you have. And it's not just about that also, it's also emotionally, because now with emotion, you're feeling
the heaviness in my heart.
Exactly. You have all of a sudden, it could be sadness, it could be anger, it could be confusion. There's just a lot of emotion. So all of these things could weigh on you. Hence now the exhaustion.
The fatigue. Okay.
Exactly.
You've mentioned two very important hormones there. Cortisol, which I know has been linked to stress, obviously. And it is a very stressful moment in itself. But I also have seen myself, and I'm using myself as an example because I've lived this, especially that first week. We're so busy planning the funeral.
Yeah.
You barely have time to stop to think about anything, but that busyness also keeps us going because it gives me a project to do, and I'm now planning for, and I want to give my loved one a proper send-off. So everything I'm working towards is just ensuring they get a send-off they desire.
Yeah.
And that's the adrenaline that then kind of pushes me to make sure that I'm always just working to the point where I don't want to stop, because if I stop, then I have to sit in with my feelings and think and whatever. So I don't want to stop. I just want to go.
Yeah.
But after the funeral, I am forced to stop. Then now there's nothing else to plan for. Now the reality does kick in.
Yes.
The crying is intense. Ugly crying is what it's called. But then when I sit with myself, I'm having headaches all of a sudden. Why do I have headaches? Why is my tummy aching? What is going on?
It's all that. See, your body is trying to process a lot.
Yeah.
And you'll realize there's some people who become hypervigilant, like in your case where we're talking about you have to make these plans, there are people who can't move. So it's two ways. Different people react different ways.
That's true.
There are some who get numb and they cannot move. There are others who have this energy and they want to do everything.
Yeah.
But all these things, the hormone itself, and also the so many things you're trying to process, we talk about not being able to quiet your mind.
Yes.
Because you're trying to think, why did this happen? You basically are trying to understand what is happening.
Yeah.
In some cases, some people will end up, you're like bargaining or trying to understand, could I have done something different?
True.
So the not being able to quiet your mind, it means you're basically ruminating, you're going through things again and again and again. That in itself could result into headaches. So we have so much that's going on. So basically, the symptoms of what your body cannot be able to contain or just make sense of at the moment,
is what is coming
it exhibits in different ways.
On the outside. Okay.
So you'll find some people getting the tension in their muscles because, again, remember adrenaline. Adrenaline makes your muscles tense because you have to do something.
Yeah.
Then again, you also remember you have emotions, all of these things. So all these things sort of put your body into, you no longer have, you're not regulated. Because ideally, under normal circumstances, you will realize there is no attack and then your body slowly starts to calm down.
Yeah.
But with grief, it's different because it takes time for you to process what's happening. So you might find that these things are lasting longer than they ideally would in a quote unquote normal situation or in a different circumstance.
Yeah.
So because of all these things, then now your body starts eliciting or producing you're behaving in different ways, or your body is reacting in different ways as a response to whatever is happening
inside.
Yeah.
Why then am I always getting sick? Because then I also do remember realizing even weeks into it or months into, even after the funeral, like I'm more susceptible now to flus and stuff like that, and that wasn't the case before. Yes, then what is happening there?
Because your immune system becomes weakened. So as you're having all these changes, as you're having the exposure to stress hormones for a longer time, also other things happen. For example, you're not able to sleep. For example, you are busy, and that also means you're not able to eat.
Rest.
So all these things, eating and resting, and stress hormones have a way of causing inflammation within the body. So if you have inflammation within the body, and then now all these things sum up together, they weaken your immune system. So it becomes very easy for you to catch something.
Different things.
Exactly.
Okay. That actually makes a lot of sense. I am also either not eating or overeating. So then the only thing I want, because again of the stress and the feelings of sorrow and sadness have me very weakened, I just want to feel good something. So then I will reach out for my favorite at croissant from Art Cafe, or let me call Pizza In for pizza, day in, day out. Why can't I seem to get my eating under control?
Well, that's interesting. But usually what happens is different people will react differently. So there are those who will have no appetite at all.
True.
But then there are those who want to eat and eat specific things. Now, on certain days, we'll say, especially with somebody who's not eating at all, you may get away with eating that which you desire, because right now what we need is for you to eat. But at the back of our minds, what we need to remember is the choices or whatever we eat you cannot, let me say emotional eating, because when you say emotional eating is you're using food as your comfort. That is not sustainable.
It can only get you so far.
It can only get you so far. So the more ideal or the more ideal way to manage would be to find things that are more sustainable. So this is self-care to start with. The why we are trying to find comfort in food is because we don't really want to sit with what's going on. We don't want to accept that this has happened and now process it. We want to isolate as opposed to finding community or finding a support system. So the ideal situation would be, can I find people who support me? And at that time, actually, the interesting thing is with grief, a lot of people are there, but we also don't know what to do with those people.
Yeah, that's true.
So you end up, you have people, but you feel alone. So it's more of finding
a community or a tribe that can,
or accepting those that are there, because you find sometimes there are people, you're just not being open to having them. Or also you feel like you're the only one who can do everything. The hyper-independence.
You're refusing to let other people help you.
So the more sustainable thing would be take help, self-care. Take a walk. Get something to eat.
Journal. Physical exercise.
Physical exercise, meditate. Things like those are more sustainable as opposed to the emotional eating.
I'm guessing the sleep thing also is related to that. The fact that I can't sleep at all.
Quiet your mind.
Insomnia is rife, and it's every day in, day out. And then I reach for the sleeping pills. But again, I guess it goes back to how long will you be on?
How long will you be on sleeping pills? Another thing that is important to remember is sleep is very, very important, because it's like a vicious cycle where you don't sleep, and so you're not able to process your grief, or rather it worsens your processing of grief. But again, because you're grieving, you cannot sleep. So you need to find a way to deal with it, because if you're not able to take care of, say, like sleep hygiene, then it will make your grieving worse. because it means you're not resting. The whole idea of sleeping is to be able to rest and also to be able to quiet your mind. The more you cannot do that, the more you also cannot process things. So we really have to practice getting that balance of just find a way to get some hours of sleep. It is really, really important.
Sleep hygiene, you mentioned that. What is that?
It's just basically finding a way more... first of all, for somebody who's grieving, we are trying to even just get to sleep. Before we even talk about the quality of sleep, just sleep.
Let them sleep.
Because quality of sleep is secondary, because it may require some time. Because sometimes you might find somebody will sleep for a few hours, they wake up, they can go back to bed. Or they will sleep, they'll wake up, then they'll go back to bed. But at least if you're able to sleep, then wake up, we can work on keeping you asleep. So the hygiene is just basically what practices can I do, or how can I enhance that I'm able to sleep, or my quality of sleep. So how you prepare for bed, you can get a routine. Not take caffeine or those
after
stimulating drinks after a certain time. Screen time, you reduce the hours, or when you're preparing to go to bed, you are off screens. Noise, the environment where you sleep, blocking curtains, basically all these things, turning off the light. That way you're able to promote sleep.
Okay. And it begins to then do the thing you're saying, which is quiet in your mind. Because if I come into a room that is curtains are blocked, even if it's 3 p.m.
Yes.
The curtains are the light blocking curtains. It's quiet. It's zen almost.
Even journaling is very important, because sometimes you can just dump. And I found it actually that helpful for me, because I do have that thing of not being able to quiet my mind. And if you can dump just before bedtime, it sort of puts whatever you are thinking onto
the paper, and you leave it there.
Then you leave it there. Then now you can sleep.
Okay. I know people try. I have tried so many times to say I'm going to get off my phone 1 hour before sleep, but I might need to leave my phone. But I have found actually recently, twice now I've forgotten my phone in the car. And I'm like, you know what? I'm looking for it. I'll pick it up tomorrow. Those 2 times I've done it, I've been a better productive person in the evening, and even been able to sleep better, because then it's just not there. So maybe we need to learn how to get off our
have it
phones.
in another room.
I know.
Yeah.
So then how do I get back on track? I've had stuff around, we've mentioned, yes, the journaling and the hiking, the physical exercise is fine. But before all that, where is the role of water in all this? People say water helps and I should drink more water. Is that true, or is that just something that people like to say? Hydrate more.
It is true, but it is not water is everything. It's not like water is the one thing that you need to have and everything is okay. But it is good for reasons that... So you see, we're talking about you're already in a place that's not optimal, so to speak. Like your body is not in a balance. Now, if you introduce another imbalance, you're just adding to the problems. Because if you're dehydrated, then it only adds to the burden that the body already carries. So if you're dehydrated, you're more irritable. Already you have a burden of emotion. So you don't want to add irritability and all these other things into it. Then again, also, if you're dehydrated, you're already having digestive problems. Water could help relieve that. If you're having headaches, water could help relieve that.
That's why they say water is important.
Exactly. So that's how water becomes important. So it is important that you're hydrated. Also, remember, we talked about self-care, and we're trying to also stay active. So if you're doing the walks and you're doing all these other things, and you also need to be hydrated.
Okay. And I know during that first week, when you do actually lose someone, the people around you are always trying to feed you, give you water, give you lots of tea and things like that. I guess that's why, because one, you won't remember to eat, because you have the surge in emotions and hormones. But then you do need your community. So the question then becomes, what should the community around me, and this is how we begin to help now and educate people, what is my community doing for me in this particular moment? How can they help? I
think we learn a lot from observing. And like the thing you were saying, how when you're at that time it happens, you're busy doing all these things, planning. If, for example, it's the funeral, doing all these things. I'm there to support, and I can see what you're doing. So first of all is offering a hand in whatever it is that needs to be taken care of. That's number one. Number two, it's taking care of you. because when you're busy taking care of these other things,
Yeah.
then somebody ought to be taking care of you. So if it's
100%.
your feeding, if it is your water, if it's reminding you
To
need
shower because I'm maybe smelling and I haven't had the time to stop.
You
And
know?
I don't think I'm smelling. Do you think I'm smelling?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If it's to rest.
Yeah.
And also to just listen, because sometimes you're overwhelmed and you probably, now it's when it's hitting you and you need to cry. So you just need to be there. And they just need to be there.
To be there for you as you've been there for the thing that you need to do.
Exactly.
To whatever. Okay. When would I know, or at what point would you say, hey, now you're not taking care of yourself at all. This thing is becoming serious because you're not either eating or you are overeating, or I just don't want to do anything. I have no energy. This is months later after the funeral. When do I seek actual professional help? What are the signs that now the thing you've been trying to do on your own is not working? You might need to get professional help with this one.
Okay. I think the part of this process that you're going through is also knowing, has anything changed? For instance, you could have been angry for a very long time. Am I still feeling angry? And if you are, then it means you're not moving.
Yeah.
Things aren't moving.
Yeah.
Or you completely just do not want to deal. If you're still talking about you're waiting for different news, there's a problem.
Yeah.
If, for instance, you are also withdrawing, if you notice you're withdrawing, you ought not to be withdrawing. You need to be moving to where the community is. So if you're withdrawing, you need help.
Yeah.
And this reminds me, I was actually having a similar conversation with a friend of mine just last week on Friday. Yeah. And he was telling me about an auntie he lost. And unfortunately, he happened to be there when she'd been unwell and no one was there with her. So when he went to see her, she found her collapsed in her house.
Okay.
So he was the one who mobilized people and took them. She had not passed on at the time. So they took her to hospital.
Okay.
But now she ended up passing on. And now since that time, that happened in March this year. And to date, he's stuck. And so we're talking about March when we are now in December.
Yeah.
So that tells you something is not right.
Yeah.
You need to process that because he is stuck there and he has just not dealt with it. So it's not, so how long you take to grieve, there's not a definite time.
100%.
But there is growth. There ought to be growth in your grief. So if you find you're still at the very place where you were at the point,
first day or the first week.
Exactly. Then you need to ask for help.
Yeah.
And this also goes with these symptoms. If you still cannot sleep, you need to ask for help. If you're not able to eat, you need to ask for help. Or if you're eating too much and you can see that by your weight, your weight has changed, your hormones there's this change in your hormones, then definitely that's a time to ask to get help.
To get help.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. If you could give us one life hack or three, I don't know how many, but you kind of mentioned some of them for handling grief without, of course, wrecking our bodies, what would that be?
In no particular order, I'll say is acknowledge. Acknowledge the things that you're experiencing. We usually talk about validating what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Whatever you're feeling, you're actually feeling it, and it is as true as you are experiencing it.
Yeah.
So that's one. Number two is you listen to your body. Now that you know you're listening and you're acknowledging what is going on, then now what do you do after that? And this goes now to self-care. You really must take care of yourself. And this could be you actually doing the work of taking care of yourself,
or people around me,
or using the people around you. And you can even task somebody. I am not in a position to do any of these things, but I need to do them. Can you help me? And this person can be there with you to help you, to remind you it's time to take water, it's time to eat, it's time, let's even go for a walk. Because sometimes you'll find they accompany you to doing these things. And I even find, like with food, for example, when you're having poor appetite, it helps to eat in a community. So even if it's just people having dinner with you, that helps, so that it makes sure that you eat. So
alcohol seems to help cope with deep grief.
Does it?
It does. I don't know to what extent we can, whatever. But what's your take on using then alcohol as a coping mechanism?
Anything that usually when you talk about coping, we talk about healthy coping and
unhealthy coping.
So if you use alcohol, first of all, to start from not even with regard to grief,
before we even grieve,
alcohol has no value to us.
Yeah,
we do it recreational to enjoy
a good stimulant.
Exactly. Yeah. But what it does, it numbs. It numbs. So you may take alcohol now
to numb the emotional pain.
Exactly. But when you wake up tomorrow, whatever is happening is still happening. So you're still going to have to deal.
Yeah.
So the downside could be that now, because you don't want to feel, as soon as you're sober, you drink some more and drink some more. So you're basically just postponing until now you become to a point where now
you're fully dependent on
exactly. But even being dependent on it, you still haven't dealt with the core of it.
Yeah.
So you're basically just postponing dealing and processing.
And then even physically, alcohol generally dehydrates your body.
It does.
Yeah. So it means as you're saying stay hydrated, because then the water helps with the headaches and the tummy and just physical health.
Yeah.
Alcohol is taking every benefit from water away, because then it keeps you very dehydrated.
True. And not just that, it also affects your sleep. So people say they fall asleep better when they drink, but the reality is that affects your quality of sleep. So even though you are asleep, your quality of sleep is compromised.
Okay, that's true. I never thought about quality of sleep.
Yeah. So you remember we are talking about struggling with sleep already. So then you add alcohol to that. And remember we said if you're not able to sleep enough, then your grief process, how you're dealing with your grief is affected. In fact, you're more likely. In fact, it's a study that has shown that for people who are not able to sleep, they have higher chance of developing complicated grief. And that's the grief that you have to deal with for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final tip or takeaway or anything that we can remember? The one thing we should remember is journal.
But I think the one thing we should remember is what you have to process. At the end of the day, nobody wishes death
100%
on anybody.
Yeah.
So when it happens, we are allowed to feel whatever we are feeling, but the healing starts when we start acknowledging, validating, and accepting whatever has happened and whatever we are going through.
Yeah.
So when we start now dealing with that, only then can we say now we are moving forward. Otherwise, we get stuck and remain stuck.
That's true. That's true. So there we go. Thank you so much, Christine, for talking to us today.
Thank you.
As you've heard, you have to take care of the physical you, and a lot is happening internally from your emotions to even your mental health. You can go to the therapist. That's really good. You could deal with the loss from an emotional perspective. That's really good. But you also have to think about the physical part of your body and what's happening. Be observant about what's happening to you. If you've recently suffered a loss, take note of the changes, right? What's changing? Are you overeating? Are you undereating? Are you not sleeping? Are you relying on pills? Begin to take a record of these things to begin to see where did it start happening, and then find what's your self-care routine. Blunt of sleep hygiene. We've had it so many times. Have you practiced sleep hygiene? And ultimately find your tribe that will take care of you when you can't. Let them in. Allow them to take care of you. And somehow, one day at a time, you will navigate the difficult grief journey that you're on. I hope you've learned a thing or two today from our conversation. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.